Why, Facebook? I'm live. Okay. Why? Why am I live? Why are we live? We're here because we do this every week. It's time for This Week in Science. We're ready. Justin is awake. Justin, have you had your coffee yet?
It's only the first cup, so I might need to...
We might need a refresh somewhere in there. All right. We are here. This is the show where we do all the talking about science. This is the live broadcast of the TWIS Science Podcast. Not all of the things from this video program will be in the final podcast. But you can always subscribe to us on the video platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or podcast providers, directories, if you want to get those edited versions, for sure. The podcast directories, we're out there. Subscribe. Click that subscribe button, the notification bell. Make sure you know when we go live, when we have published. Come on, everybody. I'm not ready for today. There was a lot going on today in
a lot of science news going on
in the world. Yes.
A couple days.
A lot of science news, a lot of things going on in the world today. I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready for this show.
Yeah.
Are we going to do this?
We're doing it.
We're doing it. We're making a show now. Hi, everyone. Are we loud enough? Test.
Checkity, check.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good in my ears. What do you say, Internet? 5x5 from Shoe Brew. Thank you. Plenty loud. Okay, here we go. In a 3, a 2, a 1. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 806, recorded on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021. 2021 Science Predictions. I'm Dr. Kiki, and today we will fill your head with surmises, suppositions, and science. But first...
Disclaimer. What you are about to experience is unlike anything else you will hear on this show. While normally focused on science and science alone, once a year, TWIS crew toss themselves headfirst into the depths of the cult mysticism and future-telling divinations. We reach out into the in-between worlds of what is and what may be yet to come. As mediums, we speak of the unseen wisdom from beyond, the world of spirits, ghosts, fallen gods, and failed stand-up comedians, whose powers of prognostication are at once awesome to behold and chilling in their near inability to connect with reality. When a prediction comes true, it does so with such ominous and resounding accuracy that it stands as confirmation that the hosts have connected to the supernatural world. When predictions fail, they are quickly forgotten. Oh, spirits, allow these mediums of science to be inoculated with your exponential growth wisdoms. Suspend all disbelief and peek into the future with us here now on This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again. After the first of the year, we're into 2021. And oh my goodness, are we at 2022 yet? I'm kind of ready already. Are we there? Big day today. Oh boy. But you know, we are here to talk about science. 6 days into the new year, we are here to make our predictions. That's right. So on tonight's show, stay tuned for a review of our predictions from last year. How'd we do? You can let us know, follow along with us and tally our scores, and we'll figure out who is the best prognosticator of the three of us. See if anyone predicted what happened in 2020.
No.
And we will predict our science predictions for 2021. And then we'll get to a bunch of science stories because there is actually science going on already.
Wait, we were supposed to bring science stories also?
Yeah, we're going to talk about them.
Year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about science. It's going to be great. We're going to have such a good time. All right. Justin, what kind of science stories did you bring? Do you have something to tease?
Sudden stratospheric warming over the pole. That's going to be fun. Retracted science papers that are still being cited today. Another avenue, another vaccine in the mix that's being worked on that may overcome some of the deficits of the ones that are currently out there.
Nice. Blair, what's in the animal corner?
Oh, I have owl pellets and useless pandas and octopus skin.
Oh.
You have Can we all have octopus skin?
That's what we're going to talk about, actually.
Oh, God, that would be great. Okay, I can't wait. I've got progeria, proteins, and a possible cure for depression.
Is it happiness?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
We'll see.
Is it 2022?
Yes, it's a.
I love how everyone's
time travel.
already skipping to 2022 because 2021, it's like a rebound relationship that is still not the right one, but I need anything to like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
But this still won't be it. It's already everybody's going into it knowing this is a temporary arrangement.
Get it done. We'll see.
We'll get her done. All right. It is just about time for us to dig into those predictions from last year. But before we do, I just want to remind you that you can subscribe to TWIS. If you are not subscribed yet, you can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, and as TWIS Science on Twitch. Subscribe. Hit that notification button to know when we are live. And you can also subscribe to us as a podcast. Any podcast directory, look for This Week in Science. You can find us on KDVS 90.3 FM, and you can visit our website, TWIS.org, twis.org, if you want to find out more information. Okay, let's time travel back to the beginning of 2020.
Oh, we were so naive then.
We were so optimistic.
This is going to be a great year, everybody.
Amazing.
I gotta tell you, even when I was looking through for last week's show for the top 11 stories, and I was going through all of the broadcasts, it was very funny. It was very funny, even at the start of the pandemic, for us to say like, "Oh, well, in a few weeks."
We had no clue. All right, I predicted that dark matter experiments in Japan and the US would successfully go live, but report no evidence of WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. In 2020, I was kind of right. There were no WIMPs, but they found axions, or they found evidence of axions. No evidence of WIMPs. There were no WIMPs. No WIMPs involved in these dark matter experiments. The Japanese gravitational wave detector will add to the resolution of the current LIGO-Virgo collaboration, allowing triangulation of even smaller merger events in the universe. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. But CAGRA did go live and begin initial observations, although not at a high enough resolution to really add to what LIGO-Virgo is already doing. I predicted that SpaceX and Boeing would both successfully launch crewed missions to space. SpaceX did. They did that. That was awesome. Boeing, no. So I was like half right on that one. I said India would return to the moon for another attempt at landing on the surface, and that didn't happen. Artificial intelligence will beat humans at the game of life. I haven't seen that happen yet. We're still winning when it comes to the game of life and artificial intelligence.
Did you mean like life,
the literal
or
board
did you
game
mean the board game life?
It was a prediction interpreted as you
Oh,
know.
okay. All right.
I mean, has anybody let artificial intelligence play the board game of life? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
What would AI do?
I feel like they'd say it's stupid and not play.
I would.
That is basically my prediction in 2021. Are you reading ahead?
Okay. Self-driving cars would take over more roads, leading to many taxi selfies on the internet. That did not happen. Not yet. More robots will leave Earth heading to Mars, leaving behind millions of jealous humans. That happened. Perseverance headed out and it launched, and
boy, were we jealous.
boy, with you. Yeah, that happened. That did happen. Organoids, CRISPR, and gene drive will be in the news more due to sensationalist scaremongering than real research advances, and TWIS will have to calm things down. No, that didn't happen at all, but because I think COVID pretty much took over the news with the sensationalist scaremongering and everything. So I think we did a good job at trying to calm things down, though.
Yes.
I think we did well. Yeah. Xenotransplantation involving CRISPR will be successful and lead to a pig to human experiment. That has not yet happened. No xenotransplantation, pig to human. Still lots of stuff involved in pigs, though. Stem cell trials will see successes this year for macular degeneration, retinopathy, Parkinson's, and others. And yeah, there have been successes for lots of stem cell related news this year. That's great. But not so much that stem cells have become the panacea that we hoped it would be yet. But then I said in November, California's CIRM, California's Institute of Regenerative Medicine, will succeed in renewing its funding mandate from the public to pursue stem cell research efforts. And it did. I was right on that. So more money to stem cell research in California.
Woohoo.
Yeah, pressured by their constituents, countries around the world will increase their efforts to combat climate change by reducing emissions even further than currently promised. That was a lot of countries except for the United States. We were like, let's go backwards. We're going to go back here, guys. Yeah, we were going backwards. The climate will continue warming even as the grand solar minimum begins, further disproving claims of solar influence in current climactic trends. Kept warming. There was lots of that news. It was really bad. All of us will have to work more diligently to recognize fake news, pictures, and video. Totally true. Across the board. I got that one. And that one is one we're going to have to do again this year. And
I've got a deep pick for addiction. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. And then, let's see. This year is going to take patience and kindness and compassion and science. Was I right or was I right there?
And science, especially. Thank you, vaccine.
And science. Yes. More interviews, more live shows, and more TWIS in 2020. We did that.
We did 2 live shows before the pandemic hit, which is crazy.
We did. We had a couple of live shows before it happened, and then not anymore. I think I did a pretty good job. I definitely didn't specifically predict COVID and a pandemic, but there were some vague approximations for what it would take to get through the year, for sure, that I think I got right. Justin, what did you predict?
Oh, my predictions are all over the place. I predicted an object in space would be discovered hurtling towards Earth, and that we would be powerless to stop it.
That's
but
true.
It would be okay, as this sort of thing happens every day. But it will be the first time an object so small has been tracked so well. Of course, Arecibo went down, which was tracking a lot of these near Earth objects. So that one.
I don't know about small, but we had that school bus sized one that came.
Yeah. That one came pretty close, and that one had been being tracked. By Arecibo before it went down. So it's still a miss. So I said here, 2020 is the year everybody has to start saying that hindsight is 30/20. Although I think the real prediction, the real truth of the matter is 2020 being hindsight. For future generations, they're going to think we meant because of this last year. Right. That's what they will think that term means. 2020 being hindsight, being like, oh yeah, they should have seen all of that coming.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh my goodness.
Furthermore, will become a criminal offense. The word furthermore. People will be expected to be arrested for using it.
Didn't happen. Did not happen.
Yeah. Also, we finally agreed to eliminate the word therefore from the English language. Those were two very specific words. 2020 will be referred to as double deuce not exactly once. But I think that's wrong because I've done it now twice. Now and when I made the prediction that it would.
In different years, though. But yeah.
This is true. This is true. 2020, the wealthiest of the world warm up to the idea that climate change might only be a poor people problem. But that idea quickly erodes along with most of their beachfront property. Still taking a little. It's slow, the erosion, but it's still
very
happening.
slow. It's going. It is
It's happening.
going. Not quite gone yet. But
The ocean is slow but merciless.
I predicted that people would finally become aware that Google has still been developing wearable goggle glasses this whole time that have screens on the inside. When tens of thousands of people are forced to wear them as part of a gig economy. So instead of actually going through real training, the screen just pops up and tells you what to do next. Unfortunately, because it's Google, there's so many pop-ups for better jobs that quickly these people move on and the technology is once again scrapped.
Instead, everyone went home.
Yeah, everyone just stayed home. And yeah, we're staring at screens all year. So I guess I can count that one because that's how the vision, it comes through. People looking at Google while working through the glasses.
Time.
Yeah, see, it's the mystic mists are sometimes very misty and foggy, and so you get the most you can out of it.
You try to get the gist, right? Yeah. These tea leaves and these mists, they're hard. They're difficult to.
Yeah.
To
I predicted that the game chess would make a resurgence, so much so that people would play a match and chill instead of Netflix and chill. But that didn't really.
I mean, if you had predicted Among Us and chill, maybe.
Yeah, that one would have been a little bit stronger. 2020, there are people who watch the show Ancient Aliens will become slightly more informed about actual ancient history by watching cooking shows instead. I think that one might have happened because people were stopped eating out as much. They're like, I'm going to have to make my own food. I should watch a cooking show. So that one I'm going to give myself a
partial
hit.
pass.
Partial
hit
on that one.
Got it.
2020, I predicted, would go down in history as long as we made it to 2021, which we did.
And it does.
Most of us. Also, I predicted the novel virus will ground civilization to a near halt, and people everywhere will react by taking all necessary precautions to curtail the advance of a possible pandemic, and the entire thing would last for approximately 3 months.
I object. I object.
That was a miss. That was obviously a very big miss.
You did not.
I did laugh when I just make it sound like, well, this is how mystics work. You make your predictions and you're like, oh, there was one I was going to make, but it seems so off that I'm only telling you about it after the fact.
After the fact,
I was like
but
unsure.
I knew the whole time.
I mean, we knew about coronavirus by this time last year, but it was just like a couple of cases, right? It was like very small still.
I don't
talking
think
about
I
it
did.
yet.
I mean, it existed. Yeah. I don't think I knew about it until we were in Seattle or leaving Seattle when the first cases were really appearing there.
That was the first case in the U.S., but I feel like it was in China for a while before that.
But there's always a novel virus somewhere in Asia.
Right, so which is why we weren't talking about it. But I think we talked about it on the show. I can double check.
It was late January. It was like the 3rd. It was like the January 22nd or somewhere around there. That was the first episode that we talked about it on the show. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe we talked about that after show.
But anyway. Well done, Justin. Some hits, some misses.
Mostly
Always
misses.
a good time. Blair, what did you predict? How'd you do?
My first one was someone will write a short story with Justin's predictions because I thought they were very sci-fi. I don't think that happened. I haven't heard about it. Microscopic life in outer space. Now, we did find phosphine in Venus's atmosphere.
Oh.
So we found like a precursor, the potentiality, but we didn't actually find microscopic life.
Right.
We'll find out we are treating lab mice wrong again. Yes, there were multiple stories about this year. There was one about them needing mental stimulation and that they can get depressed and then become pessimistic in trials if they are put through unfortunate circumstances too often. So
how can you tell that when a mouse is pessimistic?
It was the whole study. It was about the choices that they made. It's like, if you have nothing to lose by trying for something, if you try for it, then you're being optimistic. But if you just say, never mind, I give up, then that's like being pessimistic. So it was through training trials. But anyway, another HIV patient cured. Well, maybe. Wasn't
there something this year about that?
So what I could find is that someone from Sao Paulo was reported as cured, but it was kind of not super clear. It was just like their symptoms abated, but they didn't confirm that they were cleared of it. So maybe.
Maybe.
Lots of maybes in my list, unfortunately, which I guess is a no in science, but that's fine. Climate change will be discussed in the presidential debates, but it will be one-sided, definitely. It was mentioned a lot. I don't know if they had a full-fledged discussion in the debates about it, but it was definitely tossed around as a buzzword a lot, which is way more than we got in 2016. So yeah, I appreciated that.
The most I remember from the debates about the global warming is when Trump was mocking the Green New Deal, and Biden got confused and thought the Green New Deal was his plan and forgot that he was against it, sort of. It was like this very awkward moment where he's like, no, I'm not for the Green New Deal. What we need is funding for the Green New Deal so we can have the Green New Deal going. Wait, are you for the Green New Deal? No, I'm for the Biden plan, whatever that is. It was really awkward, horrible moment.
Well, I'm happy that there's discussion of rejoining the Paris Accords, which, that is an amazing first step, and I will take it. But anyway, it was discussed.
We made our numbers for the year so far.
Yeah,
keeping with the
accidentally.
Well, except that's without getting too far down a rabbit hole here. That's also kind of called into question because there could be long-term booms in carbon based on the way that we used power this year. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of weird stuff. But anyway. What was my next one? Oh, more species will be found to be shrinking from climate change. Yes, this did happen. My favorite one, though, was actually fish shrinking from CO2 concentrations in water.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. So despite all the other mountain species and stuff we talked about before, fish. A new cephalopod species will be discovered. Here's another maybe. We found Dumbo octopuses, 2 different species of them, really, 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 really deep. Assuming it's new species because of the depth at which they were living and laying eggs, but without DNA, difficult to say. We will reach the $2,000 a month goal on Patreon. I don't think that happened. Patreon doesn't show you how much anything's
made. It did not happen this year, but we are a little closer, but we are not yet to our $2,000 a month goal. We will get there. I have no doubt in my mind that our supporters will help us get there.
And then I had my obligatory pop culture prediction, which was Baby Yoda will be at least temporarily evil. No, it didn't happen. No, it got close. There were moments, but no, he did not get at least temporarily evil. But he did choke some stormtroopers, which was something. And then the last one I had was that scientists will attempt to create a black hole in a lab and destroy all life.
Well, thank goodness that one didn't.
Yeah, that didn't happen. So
that we know of.
that you know of. We're in a parallel universe now.
I'd give you the Baby Yoda one because wasn't there like it's the only episode I saw of this thing, the Manchurian, whatever it is.
Don't pretend you don't know. Try to be cute.
But they walk in and he's choking and slamming stormtroopers all around, and he looks like a little evil guy.
Yeah, that's
he's
what
like
I
feeling
there.
the dark side coursing through him as he's abusing these stormtroopers. So I don't know. I think
had to balance it a little, right?
I think he got a hit for that one.
He was trapped, so I think he was acting out of desperation. But anyway, it's fine.
It's all good. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say from looking at all of these, Blair, I think you did the best out of all of us in predicting 2020.
Well, I did predict a virus that would cause us to be indoors. Did I mention that one? Oh no, Justin already took that joke. That's right.
Oh my goodness. If you just tuned in, this is This Week in Science. We are going over our annual predictions. What do we have to predict for 2021? Oh, and if you're interested in a TWIS shirt or mug or other item of our merchandise, you can head over to twis.org, click on the Zazzle link, and browse our store. So many good items. And also, I think there are maybe like 5 calendars left. We're scraping the barrel here. So
sell us out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be quick on the "we're out" button so I don't have to send sad emails back to people. But I think we have like 5 left. So get in there right now if that's something that you want. All right, let's come back and talk about predictions. Oh, wait. I'm ready.
Is that because your future's so bright?
I think that's right. I got to wear shades, right? The future's so bright. Who's first? Justin? Are you first? Will you predict the year to come?
Glenn Brady in the chat room is following up on Blair's black hole prediction of the world ending. Says the universe ended, the hologram was reset. Smooth, wasn't it?
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, is that what happened?
It was just a glitch. That's all.
Oh.
All right, yeah, I'll launch into the future.
Tell us the future.
Let me look into my crystal ball.
What do you see?
2021 will see more COVID cases and more COVID deaths than 2020.
Yay.
Oh. It's predictions. They're not all going to be good.
I know. Okay.
As the vaccines make the rounds of inoculation worldwide, politicians everywhere finally acknowledge that public health can be important.
That's great news. I like this one.
But that's all they do.
Right. They acknowledge. It sounds familiar.
They say words. Despite the fact that science is responsible for saving hundreds of millions of lives, in just this one COVID pandemic thingy alone, many people continue to pray. Yeah, religion still continues to be a thing.
Absolutely.
It's not going away. Ooh, here's one. As air travel opens up internationally, the specific ban on Americans traveling to France remains in effect. No public explanation is ever given by French authorities, and Americans never question it because we get it.
Totally.
We totally get it.
Although I'm really sad because I really want to go to France in 2022. Come on.
Oh, 2022 might be fine. I can't see beyond 2021. I have
put
the blinders on.
Look that far. All right.
Researchers will develop a simple bioalgorithm recognition app that makes a loud buzzing sound whenever somebody tells a lie. The application of which makes most human conversations entirely incomprehensible, as the constant buzzing drowns out most speech. Oddly, politicians are unaffected. At first, they are thought to be more honest and moral than expected. Later, we learned that the app does not work on the truly delusional.
If you really believe what you're saying.
A revolution in materials is coming. One that makes meaningless current energy storage and computing power. Unfortunately, it will take another 2 years to become fully available. In the meantime, no new devices are produced by phone manufacturers as people are asked to keep their old devices until the markedly improved versions are available.
That'd be great. I'd be so happy with that news.
That would kill Kiki. That's also my favorite one.
Oh, that would be such a.
No planned obsolescence.
No. We've actually got such a better phone coming out. It's going to take 2 years. Don't even bother buying one. We're not going to make one for 2 years.
You've got it'll keep working. We're not going to push. We're not going to push your phone out of your hand.
Take a time out for this year to come out with a really much better thing. With the rise of deepfake, we were talking about this. With the rise of deepfake technology, that's the ability to make a believable audio and video of anyone famous saying anything you want them to. You can sort of program it. The technology is used less to create hoaxes and misinformation, as most people had been fearing. Instead, it is used as sort of a filter or screen effect for all news and Zoom meetings and remote classes hosted in the voice of your favorite celebrity hunk or bombshell. Honey, why are you getting tax advice from Brad Pitt? The same reason you get your traffic updates from that Queen's Gambit woman. And Taylor Joy, by the way. Artificial intelligence comes online in Turing test-busting fashion and is even thought to have achieved consciousness. Researchers are made certain of this as the AI professes serious reservations about three-dimensional reality and even raises doubts about human existence being anything more than a figment of its imagination. It immediately begins designing a second, more powerful AI computer to act as a therapist, which, when built, it advises the AI to adopt a lower intelligence as a therapy pet, which ends up being humans. This goes unnoticed until the AI proliferates into multiple replicate versions, and the demand for human pets skyrockets. Eventually, this outpaces normal human reproductive rates, leading to massive breeding and cloning colonies on the moon.
Now, this one will be made into a short story. Are you already working on it, Justin? I mean, come on. That's a story right there. I love that pitch.
And in U.S. political news, which we weren't going to do much of, but there's one here. Nothing nationally embarrassing or egregiously illegal takes place in the White House after January 20th, until the entire administration, or maybe because the entire administration, become therapy pets for the AI overlords.
Nothing embarrassing.
My crystal ball visions of the future.
Well, these crystal ball visions are from now until the future, or from earlier today into the future?
Huh?
What? Okay, never mind.
Why? What happened today? People keep saying something happened. I just woke up.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Do we still have a country?
Okay, so your predictions are amazing. I don't know if I mean, I want that phone one to be true, please. But
I just love the idea that they would just call it off for a year. No, we actually have something really good coming. We're not going to pitch crap at you for the next 2 years.
Never.
Never will.
All right, let's keep predicting. Blair, give us your predictions.
I have a crystal ball.
Crystal ball.
Ooh, you got it.
Ooh, you do.
Crystal ball's better than mine.
Tardigrades will do something weird.
Something weird. That's
something
okay.
weird. You know, nice and big. Carbon emissions will be cut in the U.S. to a number herefore unforeseen since the last decade.
Ooh.
That's only 2 years ago. That's the 2010s, but still. It's something. We will learn some long-term physiological effects from the isolation of COVID times. Some epigenetic stuff in the first COVID babies.
Oh.
But it won't actually be bad. It'll just be a change. It's not going to be like deleterious or anything.
I love how even in your prediction, you're like, I'm going to preserve for the children. Children are going to be fine in my favorite world. No children were harmed in this prediction.
And if I want to get a little more specific, I'm going to guess that maybe it's going to have to do some way with the wiring of their brains. Something different up there. Anyway, new 4D movie theaters will start springing up in the wake of all the shutdown of conventional movie theaters. The fourth dimension, you ask? Oh, it's smell.
Oh, so smell-o-vision. We're finally going to get smell-o-vision.
Yeah, we're going to get our smell-o-vision.
Is that what's coming out at CES
Do
right
we
now?
want that? Do we really want
I
that?
mean, we'll find out.
No,
We'll find out. Nobody thought
What?
they would have grabbed
have you watched the new superhero movie?
Amazing.
Yeah, it turns out they sweat an incredible amount. Yeah.
Why does your house
The Hulk.
smell like a
Oh my
burning
God.
building?
The Hulk has the worst BO in the world. They never mention it in the comic
Don't
book.
talk about it.
And
It's super. He's a superhero. It'll be super. It smells super.
next, half of the U.S. will get vaccinated.
Superhuman smell.
Half of the U.S. will get vaccinated with doses procured by the U.S. government. The other half will still get vaccinated, but they'll be sent by other countries who are sick of waiting for us to get with the program to reopen everything.
Oh.
TWIS
Good.
will eventually, late in the year, stop doing a COVID section every single week.
That would be really nice.
Just some weeks, but not all of them. Protesters at the inauguration will be ever so politely asked to leave. They will eventually. And now I have my pop culture prediction.
Wait, was that political? What?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm never political. In Boba Fett's spin-off show, Baby Jabba the Hutt will attempt to capture our hearts like sweet, sweet Grogu. That's Baby Yoda's name. But many Baby Jabba toys, they'll expect will be a big thing. They'll stay on the shelves forever.
You know why? Because the first ones that rolled out, a couple of kids lost eyes. The rocket was still had the rocket launcher, even as the baby.
Jabba
It was
the
his
Hutt.
tongue.
Oh, it's Jabba the Hutt.
The big slime man. And my final prediction on a personal
He was
note.
like a nematode when he was a baby.
I'll have.
I'm sorry. I'm just imagining little baby Jabba's tongue going out.
So you know, Baby Jabba was a thing in the cartoons to this point. So he already exists, but I think he's going to show up in live action, and he's going to be gross. Anyway.
Okay.
And finally, my very last prediction is that I will have my gosh darn wedding.
I hope you will.
Ugh.
I'd
We
like
just
that
postponed it
prediction.
again.
Wait a second. You got hitched, and it looked like a lovely ceremony. Wearing the dress, he was wearing the.
I was not wearing a dress. My dress is
out.
still in storage.
Oh, I see.
It was small. It was the big wedding.
So you had a
Action,
marriage,
people and
I had
friends.
a ceremony.
but you
I had
have
a
yet to
COVID
have
ceremony.
a wedding.
It's called a mini-moni, actually. A word invented because of COVID. Yeah.
There we go.
So, yes.
Oh, Glenn Brady is suggesting Baby Jabba the Hutt on the 2022 calendar.
That's not a real animal, so no.
Maybe 2022 could be made up animals.
But we need ones
I don't
without
think so.
copyrights.
Animals that could live on other planets.
Ooh.
These
I
are
think
ideas for the
alien.
calendar.
That doesn't
Yeah.
sound very Blair's Animal Corner to me. It sounds problematic.
All right, then I want to see.
That are like
I want to see
really
invertebrates.
origin.
Lots and lots of invertebrates in
You
the
got it.
animal corner this calendar this
You got
year.
it. I think I only have one this year.
2022. So make a plan. Make a plan.
Invertebrates.
All right. All right, Blair. We'll see how your predictions work. I
Mhm.
hope that last one does come true.
Yeah, we'll see.
I have predictions.
Yes. What did you predict?
I predict things. I predict that vaccinations will protect 60% of the United States from COVID-19 by the end of the year, but slow vaccination efforts in other parts of the world and a significant percentage of U.S. anti-vaxxers and vaccine hesitant will result in continued spread and mutation of the virus.
Boo.
And I'm not going to say the other things that follow on to that, but this is my prediction.
Ooh.
More
I like how you're reserving. Like, there's more to this prediction, which I'll tell you at the
rest
end of the year.
Yeah, the rest of it kind of goes into 2022 and kind of what happens next and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. We aren't going to get that 90% vaccination rate that people would love. No, it's going to be hard. But anyway, I like to predict things. We'll see where I land by the end of the year. More mRNA vaccines will enter clinical trials after positive effectiveness of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines lends more credibility to the growing technology. So like Moderna had not yet gotten any of its vaccines to clinical trials and to actually be authorized by the FDA. But now they've done a really great job with their mRNA vaccine. So, hey, maybe they'll have more winners enter the sphere. Bring them. I hope so. Biden will re-engage the United States in the international climate community, Paris Accords maybe, IPCC stuff, UN, and set goals of carbon neutrality for the US by 2050. That we will become carbon neutral by 2050. I want that to happen. I'm going to predict it. Let's make it happen. The James Webb Space Telescope, which has been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and its budget's gone up and up and up and up and up and up and up. I predict it will actually launch in late October of 2021 and capture its first light image before the end of the year. And that'll begin a new age of space exploration for the United States and the world, seeing things in a different light, even more clearly than Hubble could give us. Perseverance will land safely on Mars because it knows how to persevere. It's going to get there. It's going to be awesome. China is going to touch down on Mars successfully and have its first rover on Mars. TWIS will continue to bring you the joys of science. And I'm going to get glasses. It's time. I predict, based on my failing eyesight, this is the year I get glasses. And then I wanted to add some predictions.
You've had a good run. You've had a really good run of no glasses. I've gone through several prescriptions in just the last couple of years of needing ever more magnification of the world around me.
I know. I'm like, please stop. What can I do? Make it stop. I want to save my eyes.
I made it to age 8 before I needed glasses.
Yeah. So. Poor Blair.
There we go. And I reached out to Twitter and asked Twitter what they thought could optimistically happen in 2021 because I was having a hard time not being pessimistic earlier today. And so from Twitter, Jones said, more alien, extraterrestrial, alien, unknown radio signals from nearby galaxies.
Ooh.
I like that. Let's find out. Or, yeah, maybe we'll find out about the extraterrestrial signals we've gotten. And Sean Mack says, proof of life on other planets. Yes. Grinning face with smiling eyes. Someone will find a cool-looking undersea critter that has not previously been identified, said Pasta Disaster. And I think that someone will be our previous TWIS guest, Chad King from the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Going deep in the Monterey Bay. Maybe they're going to find something under there. Yeah. CRISPR will show promise in curing more otherwise uncurable diseases, said Ringmaster. I like that. I totally agree with that one. Rediscovery of species that actually didn't recently go extinct but are instead really good at hide and seek, said G. Kaminer.
Totally.
RFR Gomez said teleportation of a proton? Maybe. Teleportation of photons is really ramping up right now. We've got some... our quantum entanglement and quantum-based internet, teleportation-based internet, that's coming right along. Photons, but a proton, that is a different story. Dr. Ben from I think it's the Titanium podcast. I think I'm getting it wrong. He's a physicist, said weird neutrino results. I think that pretty much nails it. They're always weird. And Arnlore, and this was seconded by Gord McLeod, will crack the code and get a universal flu vaccine.
Yes.
That would be pretty awesome. Could you imagine only getting one flu jab? Like for every 10 years or so?
That seems so hard. There's so many.
Would be amazing. And let's see. Better Geology said, I'm going to figure out if a fault is active. Climbing into the earth, figuring out whether or not it is shaken.
I don't think that's how they do it, but
I know they set up their sensors, but I really like the idea of
Yeah.
geologists crawling into cracks in the earth and like feeling them to see
I
if
like
they're
just
moving.
they go down there and then they listen for rumbling
Listen,
sounds.
are you active? Yeah, exactly. That's not
I
how
like
it.
the idea that they like put their hand on in their ear on the ground. They go shh, 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 and they like pet it. Shh, shh, shh. It's okay, girl. Shh, shh.
It's okay. You're not at fault. But
Oh,
our future is so bright, everyone. It is 2021, looking like a good year. I like those predictions. That was fun.
listen, something's gonna happen. There's
Something
gonna be
happened.
science. Some good stuff will happen. Some bad stuff will happen. But I would like to predict that the Earth will still be turning.
It will be.
Come 2022. So
That's right. That's one thing that will not stop anytime soon. The Earth's going to keep on turning. And TWIS is going to keep on going, right? You guys in for another year? We good?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we got another year of TWIS ahead. But coming up next is science. It's time for us to talk about science. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for our annual prediction show. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. If you do enjoy the show, tell a friend about TWIS today. Help us grow and get more subscriptions. Thank you. All right, everyone. You ready for that science?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. It's fresh.
Let's-
fresh science.
Fresh, so fresh. I have a story about Progeria. Progeria. It is a rare disease that only affects about 200 people worldwide at the moment, but it is a mutationally based disease in which there is a very specific point mutation where a tyrosine, a single base pair, tyrosine to adenine, is switched. And I'm sorry, I'm getting it backward. There is a TA, a tyrosine adenine, where a cytosine guanine should be. So there's a TA where there should be a CG. And if they could just get rid of that TA and switch it to a CG, then the body, the gene that it's a part of, would stop making a poisonous protein. And as it is, progerin is the protein that's formed. It's poisonous to the body and it causes rapid aging. So that kids who are born with progeria usually age incredibly rapidly and die by the age of 14. So it's very sad. It's devastating. And it's incredibly rare.
Is this the disease that Robin Williams movie was about? I thought that was like science fiction. It was called Jack. And
I didn't see that movie.
Oh yeah, he was like an adult in kindergarten. Maybe
No.
someone in the chat room help me.
I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. No. But what happens is that the body ages really, really, really quickly. So kids who are young, 13, 14 years old, they look like they are 80, 90, 100 years old. Their bodies are ravaged and they die young. And so researchers were looking at the idea of using CRISPR to be able to cut open the gene, the DNA, and to replace it with a CG, right? And so there was a grad student, a postdoc in a lab who was doing the work at one point, and the head of the lab was going to give a talk at the NIH in front of Francis Collins, who has been working on progeria for a very long time and with CRISPR and all sorts of stuff, and just happened to mention it to Francis Collins. And it wasn't going to be a part of his talk. And instead, Francis Collins was like, you need to talk about this. The world needs to know that CRISPR could be a successful treatment. Like, this is something that needs to be talked about and researchers need to be working on this. And anyway, it led to a collaboration. And down the road, they switched tactics and left the idea of using CRISPR behind because of the way it cut the genes up. And instead, they ended up using a viral vector-based gene modification therapy, where they initially were using an adenovirus. And this new study that the results were just announced today, they base edited 62 Progeria mice. Francis Collins has a bunch of genetically modified mice that have progeria at the National Institutes of Health. And they were cured, essentially.
What?
Yeah, they
Not
didn't
a
expect,
pathway to a thing that might to lead to the thing that could eventually open the door to. They actually cured the mouse model.
Yeah. So so this base editor that goes in and swaps, it's a base editor. It just, instead of cutting the DNA, it just swaps one of the bases, the T, and then the natural it switches the T for a C, and then the DNA error correctors, the natural mechanisms within the nucleus actually go and fix the rest of it. And so the genes are fine, and the genes start producing healthy protein. And then, because there's no more poison in the body, or a massively reduced amount of this poisonous gene, that the mice were basically fine. And so they are really pushing this year to push this research forward into humans, because it was so extremely successful in mice. Yeah. They said they had these mice injected with the base editor via an adeno-associated virus, and after 6 weeks, 10 to 60% of cells in different organs around the body had been edited, and the gene-edited mice...
This is editing in a living organism.
Yes, in a living organism, yes. And the approximation of the age of the mice would be the same approximate age of a 5 or 6 year old human being. So not an embryo either. So this is something that would be done during development. Yeah, but the epithelial lining, the smooth muscle cells inside blood vessels, were effectively 100% corrected, and this is the first time that they've seen anything like this.
Yeah.
So huge. Yeah. Living organism, just going in and base correcting, not snipping, not using the CRISPR cut and put a whole new gene in kind of technique, but just
mode.
Because it's a single nucleotide polymorphism mutation, where it's this one little thing that's different. Yeah.
So this is, by the way, the type of story you need to think of when they talk about genetically engineered babies. This is the actual use of that technology. It has nothing to do with eye color or whatever.
Saving lives.
Lives. Reversing nature's mistake.
Yeah, making your kid good at basketball, that's at least 10 years out.
All right, Justin, tell me a story. What you got there?
Let's see. What have I got? This is a study led by researchers at University of Bristol, Exeter, and Bath predict winter weather we may soon have in store following a dramatic meteorological event that is currently, like right now, unfolding high above the North Pole. So weather forecasting models were predicting with increasing confidence that a sudden stratospheric warming event was going to take place January 5th. It snowed out here in Denmark overnight on the 5th and throughout the 6th. Not that this local weather is necessarily connected to this event, but apparently hadn't done it in over 2 years. So something's going on. The stratosphere is the layer of the atmosphere from around 10 to 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface, which for those unfamiliar with kilometers is about the same as 10 to 50,000 meters above the Earth's surface. Sudden stratospheric warming events are some of the most extreme type of phenomena that can take place. You can see a polar stratospheric temperature increase by up to 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that doesn't mean it's a 122 degree day at the North Pole, But if it's negative 30, it could be like negative, or it could be positive 70 Fahrenheit, right? It's a huge shift in the atmospheric temperature. What that then does is it changes all of the the jet stream and conveyor belts of heat that normally move throughout the Atlantic or the Pacific Oceans, but mostly affecting, I think, the Atlantic Ocean's conveyor belt. They attribute something that's called the infamous 2018 Beast of the East, which apparently plummeted UK and Ireland into sub-zero blizzard-like conditions for days on end. The disturbance can be transmitted downward, and if it continues to the Earth's surface, shifts the jet stream, you'll have unusually cold weather across Europe, Northern Asia. It can take weeks sometimes for the signal to reach the surface. It can also take place in just a few days. The study is published in the Journal of Geophysical Research and was funded by the National Environmental Research Council. Had 50 observed. They used the analysis of 40 previously observed events like this, which occurred over the last 60 years, and found this thing tracking. So this is sort of like a polar vortex type of a thing, where because of all of these, the fact that Ireland, Glasgow, Scotland, I think is as far north as maybe Calgary, Canada. London is as far north as Juneau, Alaska, for those West Coaster American-y Canadian people. To understand, most of Northern Europe is much further north than we picture it to be, because the climates are kept pretty temperate and mild thanks to the jet stream coming up across the Atlantic and bringing all sorts of warm air that keeps it from being a frozen, frigid northern Canadian tundra type environment. But when that thing shuts down due to an event like this, the cold comes in. This one looks like, based on that little graphic there, yeah, it's Canadian tundra. It looks like it's Eastern Europe gets it, if that graphic is actually being representative. But I think that's the old one that they're showing a picture of there. I think that's the 2018 one.
2018, yeah.
Which then pushed cold temperatures across Northern Europe as well. So, and it's also funny because they say the last time it snowed here this early was 2 years ago, which was about the time that this last event took place. Interesting. That's matching up. Anyway, really weird heating event. So also remember when somebody's like, look at the freezing temperatures they're having in Europe and right in the East, the United States right now. It can't be, so you're saying global warming? Yes, that's a global warming event. Can lead to localized weather that's very cold and unprecedented.
Right. And when you have high temperature, high pressure zones that push lower temperature, low pressure zones out of the way, then things like the Gulf Stream, the jet stream, they move. They get pushed around.
They move,
and
the
so
west goes weird places.
Yeah, so when it's these pressure gradients that push things around, and that's how you have this connection between warming in the north and then cold weather elsewhere. It has to, there's connections to it. It's because the warm stuff, it's a big bully pushing it around. I don't know. Doesn't sound like good news to me. Although when I did see this story, I was excited about the possibility of snow in Portland, but that was not what this story was about. It was about cold in Europe.
And actually Canada too. So what they say, this is one thing specific about this event. They say it's the sudden stratospheric warming event. In this case, they say this is according to Dr. Richard Hall, lead author of the study, is potentially the most dangerous kind where the polar vortex splits into two smaller child vortices. So instead of just going in one direction, it's splitting off and heading in multiple directions. So that doesn't say where it'll hit. It could actually still hit Portland. It doesn't. That graphic I think that we had there was the 2018, the last final destinations of it. So we still don't know where this one is going.
It's on its way. It's pushing things around right now.
About to get cold some places.
Somewhere.
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 More on that later.
We'll report on where it got cold next week. All right. So this last year, we talked about artificial intelligence, the natural learning, machine learning algorithm that is AlphaFold that Google's company used to successfully start figuring out how proteins fold, what a sequence of amino acids leads to in protein structure. Well, some researchers at the University of Chicago are also working on this problem, but kind of from a different direction. What they want to do is design new proteins. And so they put AI, artificial intelligence, onto the problem of learning how good proteins that are good at their jobs in nature, how they're folded. And not necessarily why they're folded the way that they are, but how they're folded. And the researcher, Rama Ranganthanan, says, "We have all wondered how a simple process like evolution can lead to such a high-performance material as a protein. We found that genome data contains enormous amounts of information about the basic rules of protein structure and function, and now we've been able to bottle nature's rules to create proteins ourselves." They published in Nature how they use these machine learning models to basically figure out how to build proteins. And they looked at a particular group of metabolic enzymes called the chorismate mutase family. They're a protein that are important for bacterial life, fungi, plants, and they discovered the design rules of this family of enzymes. They set their algorithm on it, and the algorithm was able to say, these are the Lego pieces that go together to build the protein. And so they built their own protein, and then they stuck it into a bacteria, replacing the original protein, and they found that it did even better than the natural protein. It was more efficient than nature's proteins. Ranganthanan went on to say, "We generally assume that to build something, you have to first deeply understand how it works. But if you have enough data examples, you can use deep learning methods to learn the rules of design, even as you are understanding how it works or why it's built that way."
Yeah, especially in proteins. The way that proteins are folded is with all sorts of little helpers and little they're free floating gangly things when they get sort of printed out. And there's parts of them that really want to connect together, and they have helpers that sort of push them into place. But definitely, I think there can be a higher engineering level to that, and I'm glad that we're unlocking that, because that is, again, I think this is going to be perhaps one of the most important technologies going forward, is the ability to custom make and design proteins, because that's what it's a hidden world to most of us, but that is what drives so many catalytic energy producing things in the biological world and the industrial biotechnology world. It's a major driver of everything that we do, almost in a lot of sciences and biotechnology. The ability to customize these things and or just make what already is there more efficient.
I think that's I think that's the really interesting point, is that, the evolution has done a really good job of getting things to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that, like, our whole bodies are just a higher level, a higher order of, like, the basic structure of the proteins and molecules that make us up. So we're a kludge. We've been pieces that have been shoved together. Some of them that worked, some of them that didn't work, things that fit, things that didn't fit. And there are probably aspects of proteins where maybe they don't need a certain amino acid sequence, or maybe they just don't need something in there that just happened to fit because it wasn't deleterious to the function of the protein, so it didn't go away. And the protein itself and the gene ended up sticking around and not going anywhere. But that begs the question of, is it the most efficient design possible? Probably not.
At the end of the day, men have nipples and whales have toes.
Right.
And, nature's getting there in a lot of cases.
It's because life was not designed. Life came about. It evolved. And when you design something, it's very purposeful. And and especially, I don't know, if you're trying to be efficient, you can make things very efficient in the materials that you use, how much material you use, what the outcome is. There are costs and benefits that can be worked out depending on the end function that you want.
Blair, you're looking like you're at IKEA and they're like, okay, there's a giant pile of parts. Go make a bookcase. And that's us. As opposed to receiving the box that has exactly what you need and the instruction booklet. You might end up with a bookcase both ways, but one is definitely going to be more sleek, efficient.
Yeah.
Deliberate.
And I don't think that if anybody was designing a human body with that, all the parts available, that they would put the part that you usually want to keep very clean at all times as close to the place that's going to be the dirtiest at all times.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's a bad design. Like, I would rather have
all sorts of things. We could critique human design, animal design. We can critique it all day long. I would love to talk to designers. I would like to talk to some designers about how they would design animals if they were to design them for form and function. I need that.
This is exactly what we discussed on a podcast episode that I was on earlier last year, was how to make the perfect animal. We made a monster. It's terrible, but it was a very interesting conversation.
That's fun. Oh, I love it. I mean, but this is going to be a huge direction that we're going in the future. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and these and synthetic biology. These things are going to go hand in hand. We will be designing organisms to help with our everyday needs, whether it's breaking down plastics, or whether it's building plastics. There are all sorts of things. And this is going to help us get there. It's really a fascinating advance for artificial intelligence.
Yeah, even with all of the technology we do have in these fields now, we're mostly nudging things in the direction that we like. And to get this next level of ability, absolutely game changing. Everything, the way that we do stuff. I mean, you're talking about everything. I can't even give you it's like
everything.
It's everything. Yeah. Pharmaceuticals, all cleaning everything that can be cleaned. That needs
designing drugs, designing cleaning. All the stuff.
Everything. Textiles, fuel, biofuel, power, solar, like anything that you can. Dietary. It's just so phenomenally everything in it that. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome future. Yeah, I need to borrow those shades, Kiki. You got those shades?
You got to put those on. I got my shades. Tell me another story. I'm gonna just sit here and bask in the science.
Oh, okay. Wait, do I have a story that says AI builds protein? No, that's the one you just did. I have a story that says every year tens of thousands of science papers are written, adding to our knowledge as a planet, as a species. And everything once in a while, there's an oopsie. Oh, did not mean that wasn't supposed to.
There are actually increasing numbers of oopsies and retractions as we move forward in time.
Well, but if there's increasing number of papers overall. So scientific papers are occasionally retracted for research that was conducted in error or was even built on fraudulent data, because that happens. Those papers retracted. Okay, well, there's a problem. It gets identified. We pull that from the herd of papers. However, those papers can continue to be cited by other scientists in their work, potentially passing along misinformation from those retracted articles. This is Jody Schneider, professor of information sciences at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, who studies scholarly publications and how information gets used. He's considering how scientific journals can better communicate about those retracted articles. sort of like the thing I've talked about too many times, maybe already, the null result journal. We're like, oh, this didn't work. Well, there's one place I can publish it, the null result. Because then you could search the null result journals and see, ooh, somebody already did that experiment. In fact, 3 people did, and they all failed. Maybe I'll try something else, right? The retracted ones don't necessarily get flagged properly after they've been archived. So there's been a number of places where these, where the papers are sitting, that they can be cited and they can be added to other people's journals, usually as a confirmation, like, oh, hey, it worked here, and I'm going to cite that, and why I'm asking for this grant, why I went this way with my research, or why I didn't need to look at this in my research before doing the rest of my research because somebody already did it, so I'm citing what they did. She found a retracted clinical trial report that was being cited 11 years after its initial retraction. And that the citations actually increased after it was retracted. So it was getting cited more after it was retracted than it had before. Schneider's team reviewed citations of a 2005 paper in the field of respiratory medicine that found omega-3 fatty acids to be helpful in reducing inflammatory markers in patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The paper was retracted in 2008 because it had falsified clinical data as part of its conclusions. However, it continues to be cited to support the medical nutrition intervention programs. Schneider's analysis covered 148 direct citations of the paper from 2006 to 2019 and 2,542 second-generation citations, which I think means citations that cited the papers that were citing the thing. Retraction was not mentioned in 96% of the 112 direct post-reaction citations. So anyway, this is a major problem. She says and since 2012, there have been 4 retractions for every 10,000 publications. So what we're talking about is not a systemic failure of science to produce science. What we have, though, is obviously a tracking issue. Traceability is everything. Traceability is everything in a scientific process in your experiment. If you don't have traceability, it's like having eyewitness information in your research. You need the traceability of all these things. You need to know where all the ingredients come from and everything, right? The fact that there's not traceability post-paper, post-publication, is kind of stunning. That's one of the places where I would figure, at the very least, that would be important. But yeah, so 10%, this is also a problem. 10% of retraction notices don't mention the reason for the retraction. Okay, we're going to retract it. I can't actually, that to me isn't too bad of a number. That 90% do mention the reason, that's pretty good. We are unsure about, after all, about some of the conditions of our experiment or some of the data that we relied on. 90%. 10% that retract, but they don't know why they're retracting. Seems odd, but maybe it's like there's multiple like iffinesses and we don't know exactly what the iffy thing was. And we don't want to tell people this is what was wrong because we're not really sure, but something didn't happen right because there was one example that's not in here. There was something about tardigrades having horizontal gene transfer.
Oh, that was retracted?
That was retracted, but I remember that was one that got cited quite a bit, but it had gotten retracted. Analyze the context as well as number of citations. Schneider found that more than 41% of the post-retraction citations of the respiratory medicine paper, or of a respiratory medicine paper, did not mention the retraction that was described, that described the paper in detail.
Yeah, so I'm just once it does get retracted, what is the system that's in place to make sure that the databases get that information? Because once it's already been put into the databases, there has to be an update somehow, right? And then there has to also be, if people are publishing and they're doing their database searches, that's a novel database search, as opposed to just taking the citation list from previous papers that they've been working on. And if you're using a citation software to store all your citations and things that you use regularly, is that updating from the databases, even if the databases get updated? So yeah, I can see how this could be a problem. And
so great
are they
that you
fixing it?
yeah, so actually, if you think about it, it should not be too difficult. If only 4 out of 10,000 are oopsies, you just create a database of oopsies. You just go straight to that database, and then you just have to cross-reference. So information scientist students at Illinois University Urbana-Champaign built a prototype tool called Retracker. It would automatically check for retractions among the articles that scholars compile in their online libraries using data from PubMed, and add the retraction status directly into the library. Zotero, a popular reference management software system used for managing bibliographic data and research materials, have also been developing such a tool. But this is the quote from Jody Schneider that I liked. A scientific paper that is right is like a brick to build walls of evidence we can rely on, which is why it's so important that each brick have the integrity to hold the strength it's necessary.
You don't want your wall to crumble because it's built on faulty papers.
You want to build that wall of
data and evidence,
papers and data.
And Retraction Watch is a great website, a great resource for retractions, and they talk a lot about who's doing the most, which researchers have the most retractions. They track things and they see how things are going on. It's a great resource.
I think that this is something where I don't often say, you should look at social media, but I think they've come a far way in a very short amount of time, mostly because they messed up initially, but in their ability to flag misinformation and explain exactly why and put links to truthful information within that citation, that sort of kind of running, living thing exists in there. And I think that, maybe this is an opportunity for us to use technology that we have now that we didn't have even 10 years ago when papers were being published, to adapt and change how we store, archive, and cite papers. And you could create a living list and a living database that has this kind of tagging availability. Hey, you're interested in this paper. This is another paper that you might find interesting. There's lots of opportunity here, I think, for, it would require a lot of collaboration, though, which I think is where there's a lot of work to be done in a way to make sure that
you also need open publishing.
Paywalls. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, open access. Yeah, you need that for the information to be available so that you can do those cross references and suggestions and really, really dig into stuff.
Yeah.
But there is, I think, a propensity to oversight. If you look, some of the papers that I've looked over have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of citations. And occasionally I'm looking at it going, hey, did you pick that title? Because it sounds like it fits. Like, did you really read all of that? And of course, I assume that they did. But if I was doing
graduate
that,
students did.
Yeah, somebody was forced to. But even when you read those papers, you may not like that. It may not get flagged. You actually have to dig deep to see what was retracted or when they were retracted or if they were retracted. So.
Yep. Thanks for that, Justin. Oh my goodness. We're getting to that part of the show where we get to talk about animals and stuff like that. But very quickly, I want to say, hey, this is This Week in Science. Don't forget that you're a part of this show. Thank you for being a part of everything that we do, for being here, for listening, for watching wherever you are, for bringing us into your lives. We do hope that we are giving you some joy and science-y satisfaction for your day. We hope that we continue to do that. And if you're already supporting us, on Patreon or PayPal, thank you for your support. You really help keep this show going. For those of you who are not yet supporting us, consider going over to Patreon, clicking on the Become a Patron button for This Week in Science. You go to twis.org, click on Patreon link, and then head over and click that Become a Patron button. You can choose your level of support. We have annual subscriptions now so that you can just get all the payment out of the way, or you can subscribe on a monthly basis and be charged on a monthly basis. It's your choice. The amount is your choice. It's all up to you. And the bottom line is that what we do is listener supported. So if you are able to help us out, can help us continue to bring this show to you every week, then that would be really wonderful. Help us continue to bring science to people like you and to try and grow the show to find more people who need this show, who maybe haven't found it yet. Thank you for your support. We really can't do this without you. Thank you. All righty. Blair, it's that time.
What time is it?
It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Thank you. I can't start unless someone says that first.
Someone has to say it.
Well, I have a story about Eurasian eagle owls and crickets. And I have to tell you, it's an interesting story, but I also picked it just because of all of the names in the story. So I have to give you the whole rundown here. Now, first of all, the Eurasian eagle owl, this study was studying them in southeastern Bulgaria. And the genus species of Eurasian eagle owl is one of my favorites in all of zoology. It's Bubo bubo. So
I love Bubo borealis.
Yeah. And so the Eurasian eagle owl it's very unpicky eater. They eat pretty much any animal that is between the size of a tiny mouse and a rabbit. Just anything they can get.
Okay.
Mammals, birds, lizards, amphibians, insects, anything. And so Dr. Dragan Chobanov, yes, Dr. Dragon, Institute of Biodiversity and Ecosystem Research in Bulgaria, and Dr. Boyan Milchev from University of Forestry, Bulgaria, did a report on the frequent presence of the big-bellied glandular bush cricket. Finding out this word soup that I found in this story that's just so amazing. So just to keep everyone up to date here, we have Bubo Bubo, we have Dr. Dragon, and we have the big-bellied glandular bush cricket, aka Bradyporus macrogaster.
Okay.
Yes. So these guys are threatened with extinction. They're in trouble. And they found that Eurasian eagle owls were eating a lot of them. How did they find that out? Well, of course, that was by analyzing the remains from their pellets. So owl pellets, a lot of us probably have dissected owl pellets in school. That's normally it'd be like the fur and the bones of a mouse would collect in their crop, and then they'd cough up a pellet. In this case, it's probably just a lot of keratin, a lot of exoskeleton, and probably some legs. I'm guessing they didn't bother with those.
Right.
I don't know, though. I'm not sure, because these are giant crickets, so maybe they did. Who knows? Anyway, from these owl pellets...
These are big birds, though. These are big birds, and they're eating giant crickets. That makes sense.
These are the largest owls, depending on how you measure it. They're the heaviest owls. So they're pretty big for that reason. Their wingspan is about 5 feet, and they can weigh around 5 pounds, which for an owl is insanely heavy.
Right.
The great gray owl is taller, but not as heavy. So that's the back and forth there. It's kind of like the Burmese python and the anaconda. One's heavier, one's longer. Anyway, these guys, depending on how you measure it, are the biggest owls. But yeah, so they were analyzing these pellets from 53 breeding sites in southeastern Bulgaria, and they found that they were eating a lot of these crickets. They actually found 3 species of bush crickets that that became a significant part of their diet in this area. And all 3 species are either rare or threatened there. So the big-bellied glandular bush cricket is of special concern because they're on the precipice of extinction. And they think the reason that these Eurasian eagle owls have shifted their diet to be so cricket-based is that there has been a local decline in mammals and birds as well in that area. And as I mentioned, they'll eat pretty much anything they can catch that's big enough to be worth their while. So it makes sense that they would kind of shift to crickets. But also, the Eurasian eagle owl is of interest for researchers because they have requirements for habitats of low disturbance and high vegetation. And that kind of jives with these crickets that they were trying to track. So where you find bubo, you might be able to find these big-bellied glandular bush crickets. So not to mention, they're easier to find than other animals because they're so big. And they're very loud when they talk to each other.
That's how the owls are finding them.
Yes.
The crickets are just not quiet enough. The owls are like, you're so easy to find. I got these ears and these eyes.
Oh, no, I meant the owls are loud. So it's easier for the researchers to find the pellets.
Oh.
Yes. So yes, a big fat Eurasian eagle owl hooting away. You can go like, oh, I bet there's pellets over there. They can go and they can find them. Yeah, so the Balkan Peninsula was already recognized as an area with high diversity of grasshoppers, crickets, and bush crickets, also known as orthopterans in Europe. And they are also one of...
I was going to say this big-bellied glandular cricket.
Bush cricket, yes.
Bush cricket. I forgot the bush cricket. Okay. It looks looks large like a Jerusalem cricket or something.
Yeah.
It looks like it looks like a very substantial cricket.
Yeah. I actually didn't look up their... I'm doing a quick Google.
This reminds me a little bit of the book Never Cry Wolf, where this researcher went up to the Arctic and he camped out and he was watching this family of wolves. And he was looking to watch them take down a caribou and do their hunting thing. And he discovered, this is an old book, but thing he discovered is that they mostly ate mice. So you have this sort of apex predator because they are big and they have to continually eat and keep going. And caribou isn't a daily thing. They went after one of the smallest prey the majority of the time. So it shouldn't be surprising that one of the largest owls, needing to maintain that metabolic physique all of the time, is going to be less choosy. It's not just going to go after rabbits or whatever, other small birds or whatever the owls, mice and rodents and such. But yeah, add crickets to the diet. Add whatever it can get its talons and beak around.
So other bush crickets can get to be about 5 inches long.
Oh.
These are huge. Yeah.
That's not so small.
5 inches.
That is not small.
No, that's huge.
Yes. So this was looking at owl pellets who, at first you read the story and you think, oh no, the owls are eating this endangered cricket. That's bad.
Right.
But actually, they're providing survey data, which is super useful.
Good.
Yeah. So anyway, gives a good clue into one of the most biologically diverse areas in the whole Palearctic realm, which I had to look up, and is Eurasia, north of the Himalayas, North Africa, and the temperate part of the Arabian Peninsula.
Huh.
So
cool.
Important somehow.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to hear it called the Palearctic. It sounds like it's coming from Palearctic, but then Arctic. And is that because during that time period it was in a different place
Maybe
on the globe?
You know, I did
Shifted?
not look at that. That's
It's geological history, perhaps,
yeah.
as to where that region was located. I don't know.
I guess it is the largest of the 8 realms.
Realms. We have realms on
yeah,
Earth? I
so
thought that was
there-
just like Middle Earth or
Okay, I'm going to do a deeper dig here, and if you want to learn more about the realms on planet Earth, we're going to talk about it in the after show. How about that? It's very
That'd be awesome. I love it.
great. Okay, so that's
I love
the
it.
crickets.
And Carol Ann Benoit is reminding it's the weta that it looks like, the New Zealand crickets.
Oh,
The weta looks very much like those. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, moving on to some breaking panda news at the dawn of 2021.
Pandas are breaking?
They're breaking other stuff. They're up to no good. They've betrayed us again.
Oh no. What now?
Why is panda conservation important, you two?
According to
Ecosystems.
Blair, they're not.
So you're both right. So for a very long time, conservationists have preached that the popularity of an individual animal can be leveraged to support their entire ecosystem, their habitat, and therefore all of the other plants and animals that live there. So that the panda was kind of the poster child for that, because so much money gets put towards panda conservation. So much science goes into that. And they're kind of a niche animal in every sense of the word. But the idea is that anything that lives in a bamboo forest could benefit from the conservation of pandas. So this study, published in Biological Conservation from Michigan State University's Rachel Carson Sustainability College, looks at this really. How much does it actually help the other animals in that bamboo forest and surrounding areas when we conserve pandas? How does this umbrella work? And it turns out that different species have different needs and different preferences.
Right.
They used camera trap data they collected throughout the mountain ranges in this area of preserved bamboo forest to get a clear understanding of what and how animals were using those protected habitats. Now, what do we know about pandas? They don't move a lot. They don't have huge home ranges. And if they go too far, they get lost.
They get lost?
Do other animals act that way, generally speaking?
No.
They don't.
Nope.
So
they know their
despite the
home
fact-
ranges and they stay close to home. They know what they're doing. They don't get
Yeah,
lost.
but I would also say a lot of animals, especially forest animals, venture way farther out to forage than a panda would. Because a panda's just like, my entire food supply is within reach. It's just bamboo. So, there was an expectation that animals in these surrounding areas were doing better because pandas were doing better. They were declared threatened rather than endangered in 2016. We talked about it on the show. They were pulled back from the endangered species list, which is huge. The poster child of the endangered species movement suddenly turning threatened, right? So 3 out of the 8 species they looked at in this study, an Asiatic black bear, the forest musk deer, and a Chinese, I looked up how to say it, and I'm probably going to say it wrong again, Sero, which is a goat-like animal. They're just like an antelope thing. They have suffered a significant habitat loss and habitat degradation under panda-centric habitat management. And that is because pandas need bamboo, a gentle slope, and no contact with humans. That's what they need. But the forests and shrublands in lower elevations next to those habitats being protected by pandas are actually what these bear and deer species need. And so at the detriment, a lot of the times if you protect an area, it's at the detriment of areas nearby that are not protected.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so because they were just looking at what the panda needed and protecting that space and not doing a full ecological assessment and figuring out what the entire ecosystem needed, the entire food web needed, then they were only protecting the part of the forest that the pandas needed. So once again, this is a situation where saving one species does not do the good that we want to do. You have to save habitats, you have to save communities, you have to save ecosystems. And you can use a panda as the reason to save a giant space in the
But make
Chinese
sure it's a
bamboo forest.
giant space and
Yes.
not just the small space around. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So you
want it to-
don't just do research to
larger.
figure out what the pandas need. You have to
Mhm.
extend your research. Then you can use the panda as like the hook to get what you need for all these other species. But really, you have to be doing systems thinking.
Yeah,
Systems.
there is of course one animal that is causing havoc in most biomes across the planet.
You're talking about humans?
the human one.
Yeah.
So be careful how far you go in preserving habitats, because
Well, they're highly adaptable.
one
They
animal
can go anywhere.
that would need to be culled.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that this is a situation
humans.
where I don't want to throw too much shade, I guess, on predecessors in the conservation field, because we didn't truly understand this until I would say the last 30 years. And there was a lot of environmentalism that happened that was just save the whales, save the pandas, save this, save that. And we didn't really have the body of research and science behind us now to fully understand ecosystems. I mean, I was still being taught food chains instead of food webs when I was in school. They don't teach that anymore. They teach food webs now. There's a reason for that. And it's because there's a better understanding of these ecosystems on our planet and how there's an interconnectedness. So
Yeah.
rather than wag my finger at previous conservation that has happened in the past, I will say, let's just try to move forward and get more complex in our approaches and see if we can leverage past experience towards this ecosystem thinking.
Complexity and systems, ecosystems. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Blair. This is This Week in Science. All right. I have a story that could just possibly fix depression someday in the future. Maybe not yours right now, but maybe the promise of the treatment will help your depression. Maybe alleviate a little unhappiness.
Is it money?
It's not money.
Is it love?
It's not love either.
What else is there?
An acute epigenetic treatment.
Oh.
Is it acute?
Is it
Oh,
cute? Oh.
It's acute. It is acute. Yes. Researchers at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil have been studying depression and how epigenetic mechanisms might be related to depression. So they found that when people are depressed and have depressive behaviors, that the stress that triggers depressive episodes will very often lead to epigenetic changes in the neurons. Many of those epigenetic changes affect brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and it is a protein that is involved in neuronal plasticity. So when brain stressors come on, depression gets triggered, pruning starts happening, neuronal plasticity becomes limited because epigenetic controls get put in place that basically wrap up the DNA that contains the gene for BDNF so that less BDNF is able to be produced by the cells, by the neurons, and they become less plastic, less able to make connections. So these researchers, understanding this from other researchers' previous work, there's a team led by Samia Joka, a professor at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, and also the University of Aarhus in Denmark. And they decided to find out whether or not they could erase those epigenetic markers. So the epigenetic markers, again, are these molecules that end up wrapping up the DNA so that, like I said, the genes can't be read. They're basically locked down so that those stretches of DNA can't be opened up to be translated and transcribed by the cellular mechanisms. And so that's exactly what they did. They used a couple of drugs. One is used to treat gliomas, and the other is a very experimental drug. And these drugs that they used in the experiments can't be used to treat depression because because of the way they decrease DNA methylation, this epigenetic mechanism, if they're doing it all over the place, all over the brain, they would probably change or increase expression of all sorts of genes and not just the one that's related to BDNF and neuronal plasticity. So there would be a lot of bad effects. But in the experiments that they did, in which they used these drugs and were able to basically create a depression system or something similar to it in mice, they used antidepressant drugs to use a chronic treatment of depression, but also with these very single dose acute treatments of these experimental and glioma drugs. And the results that they showed were that the acute erasure of the epigenetic markers totally didn't fix it, but ameliorated depressive symptoms. And there was more BDNF. They saw more neuronal plasticity, and animals were less depressed. Yeah. So very possibly down the road, not right away right now, but maybe there will be single treatments instead of chronic treatments that don't really work. Because we know that antidepressants don't work for everybody, and they don't work as well as we'd like.
Well, and it's also a good reminder. I know we know this, but it's a good reminder that depression isn't a I don't know how to put it, but like a self-induced problem. I know that's like the wrong words for it, but do you know what I mean? There's definitely societal pressure that it's something wrong with your outlook, or you're eating the wrong stuff, or you're not getting enough exercise, or
snap out of it.
Snap out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's
yes and no. Yes and no. Yes and no.
There are physical reasons that the brain changes and that depression can happen. There are genetic reasons that depression can be triggered. There are situational psychological reasons that depression can be triggered. But the end result, depression, is not something that you can necessarily just snap out of or change your mind about. There is very often a real physical reason in the brain that you need to change your neurons.
You need intervention, which a lot of people are not willing to get, especially if there's pressure from them that it's somehow self-induced or preventable in other ways. But if you know that there is a medical reason, if there is a real scientific reason for depression that can be cured or treated, I guess, then maybe there will be less stigma towards getting that treatment, is kind of my point.
I think that's changing. A lot of people are more open talking about their issues with anxiety and depression and other mental health issues, and that invisible suffering, the invisible diseases that people don't necessarily know that you have because they're in your head, right? They're not necessarily always visible. Those diseases that we look on, and we look on them differently than others. The more people talk about them and the more open people are about their experiences, the more it will be, if not accepted, at least that we will begin treating them in better ways, that the entire treatment pathway can be helped. But anyway.
This is one of those things that does need to be regulated ahead of rollout, I guess. I'm flashing back to the antidepressants that were being prescribed to teenagers en masse in the late 80s, early 90s that had lingering effects. Because, teenagers depression is a normal part of being a teenager. It doesn't necessarily need to be medicated. I think there are people who could be living a better life, and that might be the cause of their depression, and maybe they need therapy or do need to make these adjustments. And I would also correlate it a lot to what we saw happen with the opioid epidemic, where pain was being respected, but it was being treated with what was supposed to be short-term treatments that were then being applied to chronically, as if opioids weren't supposed to be utilized for chronic pain. So there is a danger. Everybody, the amount of people who are going to anaphylactic shock from gluten is a tiny percentage of the people who are trying to live gluten-free. We live in a world where people do self-diagnose and where things get overprescribed. And I'm terrified of a happy pill.
This is not a happy pill.
No,
This would be no. I mean, okay. I'm really upset at this conversation. Actually, I mean, I suffer from depression, and I take antidepressants, and it is, it's something that is a decision that I've come to several times in my life, taken them for a period of time, used them as a method to get myself back up and running, and then moved back and stopped taking them, and then come to a time again where I've needed more antidepressants. It has happened over and over in my life, and I really, my feathers are very ruffled at the comparison to the opioid epidemic and mistreatment for pain.
Because I've seen it firsthand. There were suicides at my high school of kids who they had later attributed to the overprescription of antidepressants in teenagers. Like, you have to be very careful.
It was not that. The antidepressants have been shown to have effects, and this is something they did not know at first, and this is why we need to test drugs on all age groups that they're going to be prescribed to before they are handed out. And I absolutely agree with that. What I was going to say is that patients need to have a good relationship with their therapists and their doctors and come to their treatment choices together in a very aware and open, transparent way. And if we are giving any kind of drug, if there is any kind of new treatment for kids, absolutely. Teenage brains are still changing, they're growing, they're developing. And if you're going in and making an epigenetic adjustment to neural plasticity in a brain, yes, that is something that really needs to be well considered and well tested and proven before you go and do something like that. But to jump, this is a very early stage study, and I am excited about it because for people who are chronic sufferers of depression, for whom antidepressants do not work, or for whom you're on an antidepressant your entire life because you can't get off of them because it's the only thing that keeps you stable, that keeps you from going down and becoming more depressed. Something like this. This is why people are excited about ketamine treatments. It's why people are excited about all sorts of possibilities. Mushrooms, even, we've been talking about psilocybin. There are multiple potential avenues to treat chronic depression, which does lead to suicide on its own in way too many cases. And so, yeah. Anyway.
And in that application, I 100% agree with you. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Anyway, I think I'm going to cut a whole bunch of stuff out for the podcast this week. Anyway, what is your story about vaccines, Justin?
So there's a lot of Stanford University biochemist Peter S. Kim has been working on developing vaccines for HIV, Ebola, for regular good old-fashioned influenza. They closed the lab space as part of COVID-19 precautions, but they then did turn their attention to the SARS-CoV-2 because that's the big story going on everywhere and the virus that causes it. So what they are, this is quoting from Kim, our goal was to make a single-shot vaccine that does not require cold chain for storage or transport. If we're successful at doing it well, we should also be able to do it cheap. So basically, they're targeting their vaccine for low and middle income countries, people access.
Yes.
Their vaccine they have is detailed in a published paper in ACS Central Science, and they're using nanoparticles studded with the same proteins that comprise the virus's distinctive surface spikes. So one of the reasons that these are called coronaviruses is corona is Latin for crown, and they have these spikes that facilitate infection by fusing to a host cell and creating passageways for the viral genome to enter and hijack the cell's machinery. I think we've all learned a lot about viruses this year, actually. It feels like that education level is increased. So the spikes can also be used as antigens, which means their presence in the body is what can trigger an immune response. Nanoparticle vaccines balance the effectiveness of viral-based vaccines with the safety and ease of production of these subunit vaccines. Vaccines that use virus to liver antigen are often more effective than vaccines that contain only isolated parts of the virus. However, they can take longer to produce, need to be refrigerated, more likely to cause side effects. The nucleic acid vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna types, have been authorized for emergency use by the FDA, are even faster to produce than nanoparticle vaccines, but they are very expensive to manufacture and may require the multiple dose scenario, as we're seeing. So initial tests in mice that they've done at Stanford suggest the vaccine could produce COVID-19 immunity after just one dose. So they've done this in mice. They already have the mouse model shown that they can be effective at this. It's still early stage, and according to the researchers, they're like, well, this is probably a technology that they were going to then utilize for some future pandemic-y, virus-y thing, because it looks like there's already a lot of vaccines on market, and by the time we're ready to roll with this, they'll likely have everybody inoculated. I think that might be rosy, as based on what we're seeing, the rollout has been everywhere so convolutedly bad.
Everywhere.
you have one very important job for government to take on logistics of a scenario, and they're just failing. There was somebody who was making this point in the media shows that you can get marijuana delivered to your doorstep within 2 hours of clicking a button. Just give them the vaccines. They know how to get to people like this in the emergency situation.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are a lot of issues at play, and I'm not surprised at how poorly the rollout is going. I think I would like it to get better. I think that's what we should all expect, is that it'll get better with time. But
yeah. So also, this is quoting Kim again. What happened in the past year is really fantastic in terms of science coming to the fore and being able to produce multiple different vaccines that look like they're showing efficacy against this virus. It normally takes a decade to make a vaccine. If you're even successful, this is all unprecedented. Looking back at the project, this is I think this is Powell, who's another one of the researchers in here. Time from inception to the first mouse study was about 4 weeks. 4 weeks from the inception to the of this project to the first mouse model. Everybody had a lot of time and energy to devote to the same scientific problem. It is a very unique scenario. I don't really expect to ever encounter that in my career again.
Well, and everyone's working like 12-hour days in the lab because there's nothing else to do.
And you know, this is a crew that has been working on multiple targets. Has been, you know, again, these are not. It doesn't just take 4 weeks to, hey, why don't we try something new? And being, you know, they are working on all of the viruses for decades and coming up with things, and focused all energy, super brainy, Stanfordy brain power on this one target. And in a 4-week period, managed to come up with something, get it into a mouse model, and it was effective. They did a mouse model that had, what was that? I think it was this more times the amount of inoculation than you would find in a normal human subject. So they over infected the mice,
Right.
and were still able to have an efficient outcome of knocking out the virus.
So this is an immunization, right? So they're still going to have to go through, they've done the mouse stuff, and now they have to go into human trials probably to be able to get the clinical trials to make this actually work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe by the end of the year, it's good to know that there's another vaccine on the way. We want to have all of them, and I want them able to also fix themselves when the mutations kick in and make the current vaccines unable to help anymore.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So they inoculated to vaccinate, and then or they vaccinated and then they inoculated with a much higher dose than you would find in a human subject, and it did not result in COVID reaction from the mice. But the fact that it's cheaper may not require the temperature thing. This might end up being like the fourth arrow in the quiver might be the one that ends up getting used if the other three can't get their act together and can't get governments to be able to facilitate this. It may still end up being very much in play because
I think this would be 6, right?
Maybe. But
because I think there's 3 mRNA and then there's 2 like normal.
So there are many more already in development and already in clinical trials, and that we're just waiting to see how they come out. So we've got the 2 mRNAs, we've got the adenovirus from the AstraZeneca, we've got the Russian adenovirus whenever they finish their clinical trials and publish their data. There's Chinese adenovirus. I don't think China is using an adenovirus vector, but there's China's vaccine. India has its own vaccine. And then there's over 100. There are so many, and a lot of them are already in clinical trials, which is very exciting.
I thought, at least in the US, I thought we have the 2, but I thought there were 3 that they're expecting to.
AstraZeneca will be the next. So it's so Pfizer and Moderna. So there's Moderna, Pfizer, and then AstraZeneca. But we still have to give AstraZeneca the thumbs up, I think.
Yeah.
But this is encouraging stuff. Look, imagine what can happen when you allow brain power to be applied to problems.
So many good things. Good things. Yeah. I want to know now. I want to know now, though, about the problem of replacing my skin with octopus skin, Blair.
That's a good question, Kiki. I get that question a lot. So let's talk about how we can get your skin. Well, unfortunately, I think we're several steps away from changing your skin. But at least it's a first step. We can talk about robot skin. So this is inspired by the color-changing skin of cuttlefish, octopuses, and squids. This is from Rutgers. They have created a 3D printed smart gel that changes shape when exposed to light, becomes artificial muscle, and may lead to new robot or potentially human military camouflage. Could also lead to soft robotics and flexible displays. They also developed a 3D printed stretchy material that can reveal colors when light changes. So they have the chromatophores, like in an octopus or something related to it, right? So it's not too different from how you think about your fancy TV works. They have, just like with chromatophores, you have the little cells that expand that are different colors. And then this one's like a teeny tiny little light bulb lighting up, essentially, right? So anyway, it's a similar functionality, but they're always very rigid, our LCD screens. We still haven't gotten our flexible foldy phone yet. Mm-hmm. And that limits the shapes that they can take and how they interface with 3D surfaces. But they were able to engineer a new camouflage that can be added to soft materials and create flexible, colorful displays. It is a 3D printable hydrogel or smart gel that senses light and changes shape as a result. They keep their shape and stay solid despite containing water, And they're analogous to Jell-O, diapers, or contact lenses, which is the thing I was like, oh, yeah. So it's soft, it has water in it, but it still keeps a shape. And so this light sensing smart gel combined with the 3D printed stretchy material can change color, resulting in smart camouflage. So the next steps are to improve the technology sensitivity, response time, scalability, packaging, and durability. Those are a lot of ilities that are going to be needed before it can be used for anything at all. But in the meantime, it looks like we have the starting pieces of 3D printed octopus skin.
That's fantastic. I mean, 3D print me the octopus skin. I will put it on my car.
Mm-hmm.
Or 3D print me a new t-shirt.
I was thinking you get a unitard, right? You get one of those, like, one of the Green Man suits. One of the suits that cover your whole face. And then just you can, but even just a unitard that's like a turtleneck at top and goes to the ends of your wrists and down. Because then you can wear whatever you want over it. And then you can still like change colors of your neck and arms. It'd be so fun.
It would be fun. That would be someday we will be able to change colors on a whim.
Yeah. Or in the meantime, it can make our drones invisible, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And then
or
also it could help make soldiers blend in better, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah, I'm just imagining the new wraps that they put on buses for advertising. It'll just be color changing chromatophores.
This sounds like Back to the Future.
No, I know.
Very cool.
How very interesting that they can print this gel that becomes like muscle. That was the aspect of it that I kind of went, what?
Yes.
What? I was okay with soft gel and then becomes like muscle.
Yeah. And responds to light. There you go.
There you go. That's really cool. Hey, do you like broccoli or do you think it tastes bitter?
Both, I guess.
Both. All right.
Sweet, I don't think I'd like it, but it's got a little bitterness to it and I enjoy it very much.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Well, researchers looking at the differences in taste between people from different cultures. This is from the University of Copenhagen, and the researchers looked at the differences between Chinese people's tongues and Danish tongues. And apparently, the Chinese don't like bitter tastes as much as the Danes do. Danes appreciate bitterness a bit more than the Chinese tongue. And researchers were wondering why that would happen. Well, it turns out that there is a different distribution of bitter taste receptors on the tongues of Danish people versus Chinese people. So tongues are set up differently in different places. And they are proposing that there is a genetic component to our tasting of bitter flavors, hence how many bitter receptors that we have on our tongue, where they're placed on our tongue, that there is a genetic instruction that places them there. But then they also went on to investigate other things like liking crunchy food that you have to chew a lot. Turns out Chinese don't like to chew a lot. The Danes really like to chew on things. So the chewing went on and on and on and on for the Danes, and that they couldn't find a physical reason for it, so they're blaming that just on Danish culture.
I think there's a lot of tastes that come from culture. I mean, the very first thing I thought about was all the weird kinds of fish that a lot of cultures have. So like lutefisk or kippers,
stuff,
or
right.
the one that I was thinking about from my culture is gefilte fish, which is mashed, shaped, pickled, jellied fish. And I enjoy it, but it's because I've been eating it since I was a kid at Passover, right? So it's definitely, I think about a lot of tastes that are just
acquired.
something you grow up with, for sure.
So they acknowledge that there is absolutely a component of learning and culture. What you eat determines what you like to eat. You know, you grow up with stuff, and then when you're an adult, you're like, of course I like to eat that. But there is definitely the sensory aspects of our tongue allow us to have certain experiences and to engage with our food in different ways. And so that will inform the cultural appreciation or how cultures have potentially developed to like certain foods or not. Maybe it goes hand in hand, and maybe there's, the way that we got genes to break down milk, the lactase enzyme, right? At some point, there is. You move someplace, there's lots of grasses that you have to eat in Dane land. And so the Danes are like, oh, I got to eat the grasses and the tubers, crunch, 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 crunch. And then you get better at it and you're happy with the bitter things because your body adapts.
Even the candy in Denmark is bitter and salty. Like that's what's no, really, like so there is no really a whole lot of other option. Like I've even had gummy bears here that seem to have like less sugar than the ones you would have in America. Like it's
America
strange.
puts more sugar in everything.
But no, everything is, and then you can imagine the crunching is just because it's such a frozen tundra at times. You have to chew through the ice.
Always gnawing on jerky and stuff. Kiki, does this mean you would say it's nature and nurture?
Yes, I would.
Oh,
yes. Yep. There you go.
But also the Danes are sort of famous for being explorers or world travelers. Like a lot of people leave Denmark. Like it's been the same population of Denmark probably for 50 years. I wonder if it's just
they leave because everybody's salty and bitter.
Yeah, no, the people with the sweet taste buds are just like, I gotta get out of this place. I gotta go somewhere. They go travel. They have like a proper cake or something. Like, oh, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. Yeah, I'm not going back.
Well, I hope everyone who's watching or listening right now is going to stay with us. Come on back again next week. Our show is over for the night. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for great predictions, co-hosts. That was awesome.
Thank you. Let's hope some of it, but not all of it, happens next year.
I like the optimistic ones, not the pessimistic ones. All right. I want to shout out to Fada. Thank you for your help on social media and with show notes. Gord, thank you for manning the chat room. And Identity4, thank you for recording the show. I'd also like to thank our Patreon sponsors and the Burroughs Welcome Fund for their generous support. And I'm opening up my window right now of Excel. Okay. Thank you to Woody MS, Andre Bassett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Scioli, Guillaume, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Gaurav Sharma, Shu Brew, Sarah Forfar, Darwin Hannon, Donald Mundus, Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fred S104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Bentley the Translator, Big Nell, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Joshua Fury, Sean and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Melizon, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Flying Out, Richard Porter, Christopher Dreyer, Mark Nazaros, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, 2020 can bite my shiny metal... Yep, that's what I thought it said. Arse. Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramos, Matt Setter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Sarah Chavez, Alex Wilson, John Ratnaswamy, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Paul Disney, Patrick Pecoraro, Gary S., Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, Brian Condren, Jason Roberts, and Dave Friedel. And an extra shout out to Shoe Brew for helping me buy a new set of earbuds. That's going to be awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your support on Patreon. If you are interested in supporting us, you can find information at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. On next week's show, we will be
back on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time or 5 a.m. Central European time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from twis.org/live.
Hey, want to listen to us as a podcast? I don't know
Sure.
why you would when you could be looking at us and hearing all the juicy stuff. But if you wanted to listen to us as a podcast, we're there for you. Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, where we sometimes write newsletters.
Mm-hmm. Yep, sometimes. You can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into the mouth of a bubo into the gullet, and then coughed back up as an owl pellet. You don't want that.
No.
Oh, no, you don't want that. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at Twist Science, at Dr. Kiki and Jackson and at Jacksonfly and at Blair's Menagerie. And we love your feedback. And if there's a topic you'd like us to cover or address, and a suggestion for an interview and a haiku that comes through the night, and please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, week 2 of 2021. What could go wrong? And we hope to do this again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
It's all in your head.
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science.
This Week in Science.
This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in
in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science.
We've come to the after show. We've got the crystal ball. We have the crystal ball. I've got the sunglasses of the bright future. Justin's taking a quick morning break.
Taking a constitutional.
Constitutional. Good for his constitution. Phew, I'm having fun flipping us around. Whee! It's so fun. Too much fun. RGB globe. That's right, Noodles. That's super fun. I hope everyone had a great dance. You know how much that show improved my mood from earlier today?
That's great.
So good.
I know. I'm like scared.
Except for my little rant for a little bit there, but
no, that was necessary. I
whack, whack.
yeah. Sometimes thou dost know what thou doesn't know.
Uh-huh. I know I'm not, Carol Ann. I know there are many, many people out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid to look at the news, but I'll do it before I go to bed.
I know. I will look at the news before I go to bed because that's what I do. I like go, I'm going to read a book. And then, of course, because I've got Kindle on my phone, I'm like, I'll just look at Twitter before I open my Kindle app just for a moment. And then it's ruined. And then the whole night and sleeping, it's not ruined. It's ruined. I had a dream about a bathtub full of poo last night.
Oh.
This is like the state of my dreams.
I had a bunch of bad dreams last night as well. One of them
is not okay.
I don't remember. Well, okay, so there was one that was actually pretty long. I know usually telling stories about dreams are really boring, so I'll be quick. But I remember that. So I was wearing like an oversized t-shirt to bed. And so I imagined that I was walking around the neighborhood I grew up in, Sunset District of San Francisco, with just an oversized t-shirt on.
Oh, dear.
I was like, I'm cold. Also,
San Francisco, that makes sense.
I had to walk home. I remember very clearly I had to walk home because I couldn't catch an Uber because of COVID. So COVID still existed in my dream. So I walked home. And it was to my parents' house, but I knew I didn't live there. But then I get there, and then Sadie came running behind me, like down the street. I was like, oh my God, you got out. And so, I guess I thought she was at my parents' house, and then there was like a hole in the fence. And it was a whole thing, but it was very stressful because I thought that she had been out in the world. And also I wasn't wearing pants. Which adds to it for sure.
That's such a COVID dream too, because people are at home not wearing pants, and you're like, oh, maybe I just left the house and my dog got out. Oh my goodness! Can we invite a dream researcher on TWIS? That would be fun, actually. That would be really interesting. That's a great idea.
We have to find one that has some science, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
Come on, Blair.
No. I'm just saying it's a tough realm because I feel like
it's not a dream interpreter.
Yes.
It would be a dream researcher.
Right. Yes.
Researching the dreams. I like that idea. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, Jenny Beale says, look at the news tomorrow.
Yeah. I think I'm going to set like a 10-minute timer.
Why does the people keep talking about the news?
Okay. All right, Mr. Not in America, so it's not your problem.
I'm not in America. I don't know what's going on in America.
There's nothing to care about over here.
Good night, Fada. Clint Brady says, an oversized t-shirt and flip-flops is formal wear in Australia. It's awesome.
Oh,
yeah. Move on, Justin. Don't worry about it, shouts Identity 4.
Okay.
Shouting. Yes. Oh my goodness. How was New Year for everyone?
It's good.
Uneventful? Just fine. How was Danish New Year? How were the
most amazing, incredible
fireworks and stuff? Or
4th of July is going to be canceled in the United States because they used all of the fireworks.
Huh.
wow.
They used all of the fireworks and over the course of a couple days. But so like at a fireworks show when they have the grand finale, and it's like that went on from about 4 p.m. till 2 o'clock in the morning, block by block, everywhere in Copenhagen, because they sell these boxes that launch fireworks up into the sky to anyone. I guess it's damp enough there that they don't have to worry about fire. The fire hazard thing isn't really a thing. A lot of the buildings where I'm at least, are made of concrete.
They have good national health care, so they can sew fingers back on.
Exactly. Well, honestly, like they've commented a lot that they think the U.S. is like insanely litigious. Like nobody sues people over things here, and it's just because they get fixed. If you fall and hurt yourself on cobblestone, you don't sue the sidewalk. You just go to the doctor and get it fixed.
Well, oh my gosh, that's such a huge.
You had to take time off work. That's covered.
If healthcare were covered, why would you sue somebody? It's like you don't have to worry about covering the costs. Okay,
I'm here on the 8th floor, little penthouse suite. There were fireworks outside the window on both ends of the flat here. Just in the window, just like constant. It was amazing. And then everywhere out in the horizon, block by block, it's the same thing. Fireworks are just going up. There was supposedly the biggest fireworks display that Tivoli Gardens, there's sort of a centrally located fun park, had the biggest fireworks display they've ever had. But you could almost not tell because it was also everywhere else at the same time. I don't know how much money was spent. I don't care.
That's
but
fun.
It was phenomenal. Like this is their all of the big party days that the United States has, whatever they are, they combine them all into this one, and they do it for New Year's.
Do it right.
And there's some fun traditions. At midnight, as the clock strikes gongs, the final gong of midnight, everybody jumps off of a couch or a chair into the new year. Fun, a bunch of fun traditions. There's
I think that's better than running around and finding a stranger to kiss.
I've never tried that. I feel like that's.
I read an article that was like, in America, the tradition is to find a stranger to kiss at midnight. And I'm like, when have I ever done that?
That doesn't sound familiar.
That's definitely like what the media tells you.
Nobody does that.
I mean, I'm sure people have done that with varying degrees of success.
Noodle says, yes, it is. Ew.
Noodle is like, that's how I roll.
Right, there's mistletoe also. Fair enough. Yeah. I guess America is like a kiss happy country.
You know why? Because we started via Puritans and we don't trade kisses for other things. So I think that's it, right? Like in Europe, you're like kiss on the cheek all the time, right?
And we're so like, no kisses.
No kisses.
No
only
kisses.
For special occasions when plants or a clock tell us to.
That's good. Oh my God, that's good.
Do you want to hear about the 8 realms?
Yes. 1 second though. I love that Identity 4 says he has been learning how to program sounds on his new Roland synthesizer. That's fun. That's cool.
I've always wanted to have like a soundbox app type thing to like make wonky sounds during the show, but Kiki's always told me no.
Yeah, we're not a morning radio show.
I know, but we could be. It is right now. It has been in the past.
Oh my God. There was some Google Kids app. What was that? Google Sound Maker.
What is this? What are realms? These are
Yeah, tell us about the realms.
So this post dates my time in college, I think, is this invention, I do believe. It does say that, well, okay, so the concept first arose in 1975, but then WWF started talking about it in 1998, but I think it only came to like, here we go. So like in 2015, I guess they started talking about it more. Yeah, so that might be why I did not hear about it. But their biogeographic realms defined based on taxonomic composition. So like animals, plants, etc. And so they correspond more or less to the floristic kingdoms and zoo geographic regions. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. But the 8 realms are...
What is this sound?
I'm getting ready for her to read the 8 realms.
The Palearctic, which is what we talked about today. That's the bulk of Eurasia and North Africa. And then we have the Nearctic, which is most of North America. The Afrotropic, tropic probably, including Trans-Saharan Africa and Arabia. Neotropic, South America, Central America, Caribbean, I don't know. Australasia is Australia, New Guinea, New Zealand, and the neighboring islands. Bye, Brian. Bye. And then we have Indo-Malaya, the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, and southern China. Oceania, which you probably have heard of.
Australiania?
No, because Australia is in Australasia, as I mentioned before. So Oceania is Polynesia, Micronesia, and Fiji. And then Antarctic with Antarctica. You see.
I see.
But what are they based on?
They're based on taxonomic similarities in the plants and animals there.
Okay.
So it is evolutionarily kind of
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
geologically based. In a sense.
Yeah. So, and they're somehow related to zoogeographic regions, which there's only 5 of those, I guess.
Okay. You've got to have your categories in order to categorize.
No, what's very funny is the zoogeographic regions, different zoologists or scientists of some sort slap their name on it every 10, 20 years since the mid 1800s and renamed them and reassigned them. So they were reassigned.
We gotta reclassify this. We got more information now. There we go.
3, 4, 5 times. The latest time was in 1957.
Oh, that's good. Oh, hey, we're due. We're really overdue.
We're really overdue. So he has 6 in 2 schemes. Darlington. He has realm Megagea. And then Neogea, Notogea.
I made a song.
Climate limited regions, main regions, and barrier limited regions. So there you go.
Well, I love Blair's expression. What the hell are you doing? Stop it! Just stop now. Just knock it off.
Okay.
He said it. I didn't say it.
No, this is what Blair's face was telling me.
It's super fun.
I was just confused. I wasn't sure. Should I keep going? Should I stop?
Keep going. I'm just playing with. It's in Google Chrome. It's Music Lab. It's Google Chrome Song Maker.
That's very fun. It's funny because I actually, until recently, I might still have it. I had a sound making machine that had buttons that made like clapping and wah, 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 and like stuff like that, and totally irrelevant and obsolete now.
What was
Hey,
this?
what's going on in America?
Oscillators.
Don't look.
No, don't look. Nope.
What?
Let's play with oscillators. This one is type square.
Well, how is everybody not looking?
I've been looking
I
all
like
day.
I like that sound.
This is a sawtooth oscillator.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
I like the sawtooth.
This one is a triangle. How about a sine?
Ooh, that's an alien.
Yeah. They're fun, huh? Oscillators. You like the sawtooth?
I like that one a lot. It sounds like a bug.
It does. Realms. I hear realms, and I'm imagining that whoever came up with the idea that there are realms on the planet was some kind of a fantasy reader.
Played
Like,
D&D for sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
Someone who worked with Tolkien back in the day. You know, they're like, oh yeah, Tolkien, what you doing? Well, I got this story. It's got all these realms. Oh, I like that word. We can use that. I can get what it
But
works.
wasn't realms also like to distinguish different areas of control of
Kingdoms and
Britain? I mean, I
Mhm.
think that was just sort of
I'm sure it's
how you
British.
said that's like that territory or whatever region.
What are realms from?
Oh yeah, Carol Ann Warhammer. Oh my goodness. I'm learning all about this thing called Warhammer.
Oh yeah.
It's the Brian's getting into it. He's painting miniatures, and it takes place in the year 40,000.
40,000. That's a
Okay.
long
He
time now.
he's in charge of a group that are basically space vampires. So
Okay.
That's rad.
then there's also like cyborgs, and then I don't remember. It's a lot. The book is like this thick for this game. He's never played it because he's like, I have to study.
I need to study. I don't have time for this.
Yeah. Oh yes, Asgard, Midgard.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard, you know?
Isengard. Mm-hmm. The etymology. That's what
Stuck
I want
in
to
my
know.
head.
Realm etymology. Originally from interesting Latin, regimen, government, Old French, Rome, Middle English, room,
Oh,
and then English regimen and Old French, royal. So
mm.
became realm. Interesting. I never would have guessed that. Fantasy. Fascinating. Kingdom.
Fantasing.
Boy, fantasing.
Better.
I'm
I've
fantasing.
shared a very important YouTube video in the chat room, just so you guys know.
Very important.
It's very
Heyo, Caltex. Very important. You love so much. Let me see this video. Is 2 minutes. Oh, taking the hobbits to Isengard. I can't watch that right now, but I
You
love
can
it.
watch it later. It's really good.
It is coming.
Apparently stuck in my head.
It is coming up upon second breakfast rather quickly here.
Okay.
Second breakfast.
Yeah, I need to go to
Ooh.
bed. I'm emotionally exhausted.
Identity 4, you have a really pretty Roland super programmer thingy. It's cool. Have fun programming that. That sounds... I want to hear the sounds. Ubuntu Studio from Thunderbeaver. Lots of audio things. That's awesome. Make your own... Make your sounds. Make your music. Make it happen. And then find a plant or a clock that tells you when it's time to kiss.
Plant or a clock. It'll tell you.
It'll tell you. Is it time for us to head to the realms of second breakfast and sleep?
Yes. We'll see how much sleep I actually get done. I am going to try to set an alarm for 10 minutes I'm gonna try to go to sleep.
10 minutes?
Of news is all I get.
Oh, yeah. I might just stand here and play with the Chrome Music Lab a little bit
That's good.
before I go to bed because it's super fun. Wait for this one. Okay, before we go, this is the voice spinner. Hold on. I'm going to say something. Wait, I'm saying, I would have to allow it to use the microphone. I'm saying something right now. Okay, I'm saying something. All right.
Not working.
No, we will.
I'm saying something right.
Use the microphone. I'm saying something right now. Okay.
Use the microphone. I'm saying something right now. Okay. Use the microphone. I'm saying something right now. Okay.
Now let's go backwards.
Okay, do me a favor. And I need you to say something in particular.
Something in particular?
I need you to say they're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Okay. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. They're taking the hobbits.
This is all in the Google
They're
Music
taking
Lab?
the hobbits to Isengard.
Okay, you guys just got weird. I'm going to sign off with this. I'm going to sign off with this sentence that I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to sign off with this sentence I just read. Little sign remains of what took place at the U.S. Capitol, except for trash cans overflowing with discarded Trump flags. Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say goodnight, Justin.
Good night, Justin. Even though it's morning.
Good
night, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll be back again next week. And maybe the hobbits will be in Isengard by then. We hope that you will join us. We're really looking forward to seeing you again. Everyone stay healthy, stay well.
Stay away from Isengard.
Stay away from
Bad
Isengard.
news.
Good choice.